Welcome to Oracle Application Express Apex Regions, Other Types. The lessons up to this point have taken a look at the most common interface elements that we see in Oracle Application Express. This lesson is going to take a look at some of the other types that are available to you. These other types are not as common as the other interface types that we've seen up to this point, but it's important to understand how they work inside of Apex. I can click on Create Page. We've looked at Report, Form, Tree, Map, Chart, and Calendar. Let's take a look at some of the other page types. Blank page and multiple blank pages are exactly what they sound like. They create pages inside of your applications with no regions predefined. Some developers like working this way. They like working from a blank canvas where they can go in and make all of the changes that they need to in one place. If you like working this way, then you can use blank page and multiple blank pages inside of your application very easily. I'm not going to walk through the wizard because it does pretty much what you would expect it to do. It asks you some questions about the page, and since there are no regions on the page, it doesn't bother asking what you want to put on the page. It simply goes out and creates blank pages inside of your application. Plugins are a real interesting part of Oracle Application Express. A plugin allows you to extend the functionality of Oracle Application Express. We're going to have a couple of lessons devoted strictly to plugins, so we're not going to talk about it here. A wizard creates a predefined set of pages for you inside of your Oracle application that are all linked to each other. You can then put whatever code you'd like on each one of these pages. By default, each page links to each other through a Next button in the top right part of the screen. If I click on Wizard, it'll ask me how many pages will make up this wizard, and do I want to create an information region for each page. Let's just leave it at 5 for now. I'm going to use the wizard region as my region template. All pages use the same tab. I'll use tab set 1. And here are the pages that the wizard's going to create for me. You can see I can change the page numbers, the page names, or the number of items that are on each page. I can change the button labels. I can change how they branch when I'm finished walking through the wizard, and I get a confirmation page at the end. Since I haven't put anything on these pages, they're just going to be blank pages that allow me to navigate from one to the other. So when I run the page, here you can see is step 1. I click Next, takes me to step 2, step 3, step 4. When I click on step 5, the Next button gets changed automatically to a Finish button. It's the same way if I scroll back through Previous all the way to step 1. I don't get a Previous here, I just get a Cancel. I haven't put anything in this particular wizard inside the code of any of the pages. I just have the navigation properties available to me so that I can walk through a wizard real easily. And you can see here's a wizard tab along the top of the screen that I just created. When it comes time for me to put code behind each one of these steps in the wizard, I can simply edit the page and add all of the information that I need to on each one of the pages. There are the 5 steps on the wizard that was created for me automatically. Data loading is a special kind of page that allows you to set up transformational rules to load data, typically from an Excel spreadsheet, into your database. I can click on data loading. You'll see that I have to give my data load a definition name. It can be anything I want. I have to select what table I'm going to load into. On the next page of the wizard, I can set up rules. These rules are based on sequences, and these sequences allow me to fire multiple rules against the data that I'm trying to import into my Oracle database. I can give the rule a name like XYZ. I can go through and I can specify what field this particular rule is going to be based on. I can select the rule type. I can say I want it in uppercase, lowercase. I can have a whole bunch of string functions performed against this particular field. And then I can specify my expression of how I want the information to be transformed before it gets moved into an Oracle database. So once I've defined a particular rule, I can click on the Add button. And I didn't put anything inside the expression, so it's not really going to do anything. But this rule is defined as I do a data load. If I need to look up data in other tables, I can specify those rules here also. I can change any of the attributes that go along with any of the pages. I can use tabs. and I can specify the labels for the buttons that come up on the screen. Once that's all done, I can create a page that will then prompt me to load information into my database. The feedback page is a great page for developers. If you specify a feedback page inside of your application, you'll then have the ability to turn on feedback for your application. If you turn on feedback for your application, in the top right part of the screen, users will have the ability to click a link and add comments about the application itself. This is a great way to run your application through testing and QA and get feedback from users. So if I create a feedback page, there's not really much for me to answer in relation to the actual feedback page. Oracle will create it for me automatically. Once that feedback page is created, anytime I run some other page inside of my application, let's say I run this report on departments, you'll see that I have this feedback link in the top part of my screen. Since I've run through this application a couple of times creating and deleting the feedback pages, I get 3 feedbacks here, but under normal circumstances, you would just see feedback once. When this is enabled, end users can provide feedback to the development team by saying things like, "Don't like the color scheme of this page." They can make it as a general comment, an enhancement request, or if they found a bug in the application. Once they enter that information and say submit feedback, developers can go in and see how users are using the application and the types of things that are causing the users problems. This enables the feedback loop for the application and really becomes a training issue between you and your end users. By default, when an application is created, a login page is generated automatically. You don't have to use the login page that's generated automatically, and you can go in and modify the login page if you want to. If for whatever reason you need to create a new login page, you can do so here. The login page will maintain all of the cookie information and the session information for all of the other pages in your application automatically. The access control page is if you want to define a different authentication scheme for your application. Out of the box, Oracle gives you a couple of different ways of defining authentication and authorization inside of your application. If those default ways are not good enough and you need an extra layer of security, you can go through and define your own authentication scheme for your application. When you define your own authentication scheme, you'll need a way to access the information for the users inside of your application. By saying you want to create an access control page, Oracle will step you through a wizard where it will prompt you for information about the access control. The final type of page, which is very important, is something called a global page. A global page always has the page number of 0, and it's very popular because anything that you put on a global page will automatically show up on every other page inside of your application. This differs slightly from a template. A template has all of the information about how fonts look, how colors look, how information is organized on the page. A global page is slightly different in the sense that anything that you put on the global page will automatically be replicated to every other page of your application.